Welcome back, fight fans. Welcome back. Welcome back. Let's just dig right into it. This is another edition of the Q&A with the IBFP. Let's start off with the first question. Comes from Immortal Fox. Can you do a mini series on certain fighters? What's in their future? How good their resume is and who they can beat? What skills they have, etc. Thanks, Nuke. Thank you, Immortal. Yes, we will be able to do that as soon as possible. I appreciate the comment. The next one comes from These Nuts on Your Chin. He states, I would love to be in the Q&A, but DM me if I have to change my name because I've been banned from live streams and such. Just come as you are, brother. Angel Figueroa states, Jaime Munguia got exposed. El Canelo will slaughter this fool within 2 to 3 rounds. I agree 100%. I think that Canelo would slaughter Jaime Munguia within 2 to 3 rounds. But, to some degree, I don't believe Jaime Munguia was exposed just for the simple fact that, I never thought Jaime Munguia was elite. I never thought he was a top-level fighter. I always thought that Jaime Munguia had a lot of deficiencies. I've always stated about Jaime Munguia that he has a lot of potential, but his lack of defense is a problem, But he is a developing green fighter. He's only 22 years old, so you got to give him time, but you can't expect Jaime Munguia to be the cream of the crop right now. It's way too early. The next question comes from D. Jefferson. If Miller beats AJ in the late rounds, do you think AJ would win the rematch? First of all, I think AJ would win the rematch, but at the same time, I don't think AJ would lose the fight at all to Gerald Miller. He also states if Miller takes AJ into deep waters because AJ can't hurt him, then I'm not sure AJ will win the rematch because his stamina will remain an issue. The bulky muscle is AJ's stamina issue, so I could just imagine the same in the second fight. I pick AJ. Just a hypothetical question. It's an interesting hypothetical question. A lot of problems wrong with the hypothetical. Also, I don't see any reason why AJ wouldn't be able to hurt Jarrell Miller. If you look at AJ's power in comparison to Wilder's, they're clearly the two strongest, most powerful punchers in the heavyweight division. And AJ power might just be slightly less than Deontay Wilder, but it's basically on the same level. These guys are elite power puncher, except for the fact that Anthony Joshua has skills. We're talking about a Jarrell Miller who's never been tested in boxing. Yes, he's practiced other martial arts and combat sports, but boxing is a different beast when you're taking unlimited blows to the head continuously. But let's keep it going. One Flyboy said if you had to pick one who is the biggest chance of pulling off the upset, Khan versus Crawford or Miller versus Joshua, I'm going to go with Miller. Khan hasn't looked any different since being knocked out by Danny Garcia. He still has those mental lapses and gets caught every fight. I don't even think it's a mental lapse. I think every fighter is going to get hit with a shot at some point in the fight. No matter how great you are, you're going to get hit with 1 or 2 shots occasionally that are going to be good, clean shots. At the end of the day, it's your ability to be able to take a shot or two. And I don't think Amir Khan has that. I think the biggest upset in that, who has the chance to pull off the upset, I would say Jarrell Miller, because in heavyweight divisions, guys that big always have a puncher's chance. But I think, you never know what can happen. The next one comes from JB. How do you see the pound for pound rankings in 2 to 3 years? Any big changes? As of right now, that's a great question. Any big changes? Well, we'll see. Everyone in the pound for pound right now will be interesting to see where Anthony Joshua is. I think he has the longevity, he has the skill set, he has the youth, he has the power, he has, he's continuing to improve. I think Canelo Alvarez is just hitting his prime, so I think both of these guys will remain pound for pound fighters, or they will be listed on the pound for pound. Who knows? I think Mikey Garcia could potentially be off the pound for pound list at that point, because we don't know if Mikey Garcia is going to be able to, where he's going to fight. If he fights at 147, I don't know if Mikey Garcia is still a pound for pound fighter. If Mikey Garcia moves down to 140, I can see Mikey Garcia staying on the pound for pound list. Some people have Errol Spence on the pound for pound list. We'll see where he belongs after he fights Terrence Crawford. Good question, JB. Ricardo Lopez says, once Maidana gets a few tune-up fights, Marcos Maidana versus Errol Spence at 154, what are your thoughts on that fight? I think that's a good fight. I think it's an interesting fight, but I would have to pick Spence because we don't know if Chino Maidana is back to being the old Chino, but he's still a straight up and down fighter. But against a guy like Spence and his power, just two big guys slugging it out at 154, I think it'll be an entertaining matchup. I think both guys have the potential to get hurt, but I would still lean towards Spence at this point. Jaime Munguia going what's Jaime Munguia going to do at 160? I think Jaime Munguia is going to lose at 160. I don't think he's experienced enough. He's way too green. He has the physical attributes to be successful at 160, but he just doesn't have the size. But I don't know. That's all I'm saying here. He just doesn't have the size. Ricardo says, judging by his last fight, he looked green to me, and he's not beating any champion at 160 right now. Give him some time, yes, but not now, in my opinion. I agree 100%. Great question, brother. And thanks. Insane 37 says, in your opinion, why is Canelo a better pound-for-pound fighter than Terence Bud Crawford? And in your opinion, who has a better chance of beating Canelo at 168? I think Dimitri Bivol would probably have the best chance of beating Canelo at 168 out of all the active fighters. Not Bivol, I'm sorry. David Benavidez. Bivol is at 175. Bivol may come down to 168, but if he does, then Bivol might have the best chance because he's so experienced. He's used to bigger shots, but he also might be weight drained. I would still favor Canelo over Benavidez, over Bivol at this point, especially at 168. But I don't think any of those guys would be a walk in the park. As far as why I favor Canelo pound for pound over Terence Crawford, I actually toggle between the two back and forth all the time. One day I have Crawford, one day I have Canelo. Both of those guys have such elite level skill sets. Both of those guys are special, generational type talented fighters. It's hard for me to pick one particular fighter on any given day. Rudy Morales says, why is Canelo not number one pound for pound when he has the best resume? I agree with you 100%. If there could be two number one pound for pounds, I'd put Canelo and Crawford, but I have no problem with anyone leading either way. But I think Canelo would definitely have the edge just for the simple fact that he's so young, entering his prime. He's even younger than Terence Crawford, and he has the best resume in boxing. You can't hate on that. Barker Raider says, thoughts on Cutro at 175 and what you think he should do next to defend his title or stay at light heavy. I think he should defend his title. There was talk about Cutro Ramirez at 168 against Billy Joe Saunders. I think that's a fantastic fight for him and Billy Joe. I think that would make Cutro a big star, and then he could end up fighting a Callum Smith in the UK and just building a UK fan base, so he'd be an internationally known star. I think that would be great for him. 175, he has a lot of defensive deficiencies and he eats a lot of shots. I think 175 could be bad when he starts running into the bigger punchers at that weight class. Great question. Dragon Leg states, all right, Nuke, would AJ have leverage, push the Dillian White fight to get the WBC silver? Would be mandatory for Wilder. AJ would have another title fight to give Dillian White an offer he can't refuse, like $50 million. That's the route I would try to go. I think that's a great route. Have Dillian White go after Wilder's belt, and then have Anthony Joshua and Dillian White scrap it out. $50 million offer, huge fight. But it's just that it's just going to be a hard fight to make, especially with Dillian White's value in the U.S. I mean, AJ, that's not a huge DAZN fight, so being able to offer that much money for Dillian White, because DAZN essentially is who's paying for the Deontay Wilder Anthony Joshua fight, so DAZN probably wouldn't want to scrap out that much money for Dillian White though. Great question. The next question comes from Jessica Cardenas. She states, after watching this fight, Munguia's trainer is awful. Even if the trainer is great, Munguia doesn't listen. So with that being said, Munguia has made it this far because of his chin and being the bigger man. No way he can compete with the big dogs at 160. I still like Munguia though, and he ain't scared like Teofimo. Ooh. I don't know if Teofimo's scared or not, but I will say that Munguia, he needs to develop as a fighter defensively and offensively, but he has the physical attributes to be a very, very special fighter. Maldonado S states, how come people are shitting on Lomachenko's opponent when he was a mandatory, and when Spence was fighting Ocampo, his fans girl praised his performance? Or how Wilder has only fought two mandatories in 4 years. They don't shit on his constant bum bashing. And I agree with you 100%, Maldonado, because at the end of the day, these guys hold a double standard because they're fanboys of these fighters. These guys aren't honest and unbiased about who their guys are fighting. Barker Raider states, what are your thoughts on Janibek? Is he the heir to Triple G? I will say he could be, although their fighting styles are vastly different. Janibek is more of a pure boxer. Triple G is more of just a huge puncher, but he is very special. He's from the same place as Triple G. Keep an eye out for him. He could be a problem. Remy Loke says, what are your thoughts on Munguia possibly moving up to 160? Munguia's not ready for 160. I don't see him being able to beat any of the big dogs at 160. The second question he has is, I know it's too soon and needs better training to dominate 154. What do you think? I think, the more training and experience that Munguia gets, the better he will be. But I still think that Munguia is not a lost cause. He's only 22 years old. I think everyone needs to slow down in their judgment, because if in the rematch he faces Dennis Hogan and he stops him in the first 6 rounds, what is everyone going to say then? Let's not act like Dennis Hogan is unbeatable, and let's not act like Jaime Munguia is pure garbage when we've seen Jaime Munguia has size, has power, and he did win rounds. It wasn't like Jaime Munguia was shut out and didn't win any rounds. So, I think that Jaime Munguia has the potential, but at the same time, it's going to be a tough fight, and he has to develop immediately. The next question comes from Oscar Vasquez. Do you think Jaime Munguia will eventually get to super middleweight? I think so, if his chin and his skills improve. Well, if his skills improve and his chin holds up. The next question comes from Eduardo Sanchez. Who is the best young prospect out of these in order? Shakur Stevenson, Devin Haney, Teofimo, Rowley, Ryan Garcia, Virgil Ortiz. I'd put Shakur Stevenson 1, and I'll put Virgil Ortiz 2, just because I think these guys have shown the most in a varied skill set. I put Devin Haney 3, because Virgil Ortiz has shown knockout power and showed angles and boxing ability. Devin Haney hasn't shown that type of knockout power, but he has shown boxing ability. Shakur Stevenson has shown all of the above. So those are probably my 1, 2, and 3 right off the bat. The next one comes from Billy Robles. Do you think Mikey Garcia needs to train side to side with Manny Pacquiao so he can learn how to fight in the 147 division? Reason is because they're both about the same height, reach, and size. I think that's a very good prospect. I think Mikey Garcia can compete at 147, but going out to Spence, he seems like he had no plan B. But then again, I don't know if 147 is his best weight. Training with this Manny Pacquiao at this late in his career, I don't know if that's going to be beneficial for him. But Manny Pacquiao and Mikey Garcia does have similar attributes. You would assume Mikey should be able to compete at 147 because, he's already beat a Sergey Lipinets who just knocked out, Lamont Peterson. So I think Mikey Garcia has the skills, but it's just the game plan, waiting on the shots, and his work rate has to definitely improve if he's going to even try to compete at 147. The fact that he just got dominated against Spence was a problem for me. But that's a great question. Immortal Fox, I appreciate that as well. Nanny Perez says Munguia should take easier fights and train and find a trainer that's better. He needs to work on his defense, his counters, more body punching, less head hunting, and move to 160, and he can be great. Still young. I agree. He still has a bright future. He just has to improve, and he has to improve in a hurry. Jose Yepes, shout out to Jose Yepes. Esudo Ramirez is the opposite of Munguia, meaning he is ready for tougher opponents, and Munguia needs softer, lesser work. I think Munguia needs much more work. I think lessening up his workload makes no sense. Put him in thorough training camps, keep him active against other fighters that can challenge him, like the Dennis Hogan, because if he can just improve against these levels of fighters, then he can move beyond that level because he's so young. If he starts fighting less, getting less experience, it's only going to hurt him. Jose Yepes states, Munguia, bro, we got to talk about him, slow him down, throw him with the Sharks, ? I think we got to keep him going, got to keep him at this rate. Just don't put him in there with any top guys at 160 or 154 yet. You just got to keep developing him, but he should be ready sooner rather than later. But once again, this is part 1 of the IBFP's Q&A. Please share, like, and you must absolutely subscribe.